Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Wonderful, Frank. Welcome back.
Welcome back to another Perspective Shift Show.
Good to see you.
Shift show. That sounds weird.
Welcome to the Shift Show.
Shift show. We're shifting and showing, baby.
I love it. You have a good week?
Yeah, I did. I had a great week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything cool you want to share?
Anything cool? Just, I don't know. The weather's cool.
Yeah, that's for sure.
real cool.
It's nice now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You got plans for Halloween?
Oh, I'm excited. This is Halloween week here, and Halloween's always great.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun. It's a time where we all aren't pretending that it's weird to wear a mask, you know?
Yeah, and then you find out, like, what people really are, like, who they want to be in a different persona.
Well, that's
and
the thing. It's funny. Yeah.
It is funny.
You know, we run around all day long pretending like we're this person, you know. We've got these masks on, you know. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm this, I'm that. I'm a mother, I'm a father. And it's like, you're none of that. These are all roles that we all play, you know, day in, day out. You know, we assume these roles, you know, family roles, roles at work. And we like to say, this is us. You know, what do you do for a living? You know, oh, I'm this. That's who I am. This is what defines me. No, that's not what defines you at all. We allow it to,
Actually,
you know, consume us.
The correct answer of what we do for a living is we breathe.
Yeah.
We're not oxygen. We're not living.
Happy, you know.
Yeah. But yeah.
I like to hike. You know, somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? And you say, you know, I'm happy. I want to go for a hike.
I got to eat some food. I got to breathe, you know. Yeah.
No. I mean, what do you do for money? Right?
What
I'm getting
do I
at.
do to waste my time? Oh, I have a job.
Exactly. You know.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because Halloween's that time where we put on masks and, you know, run around and get that day of freedom. You know, that's what I like about Halloween. It's like
it's a
cutting loose.
Yeah, it's a fractal of what we do every day.
Yeah.
So so people are like, oh, it's Halloween.
But we know we're playing along, you know?
Yeah.
Like I went to a haunted house last weekend with my brother, and it was just awesome. Him and I love to go to haunted houses, you know,
Which
this time
one
of
did
the
you
year.
go to?
We actually went to the new Fear Farm. So we try to hit ones that are different, you know, each year.
Where's the new Fear Farm?
So this one's actually located in Glendale. Wasn't far at all. It was cool. You know, they had some good, you know,
do you like
food
a chainsaw guy out there?
Oh, of course. You know, running through.
I love the old chainsaw
And that's
guy.
the thing, you know, like seeing kids running around, you know, being chased by guys with chainsaws.
Do you ever worry
That's
that
fun.
they hire someone that's just a complete lunatic?
All the time. No, I actually don't think about that at all.
Yeah, it's because I mentioned it after you went.
Yeah, right?
Like, holy shit, what happens if this guy's a lunatic and he's got a chainsaw in his hand?
You'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
These haunted houses, though, they're fun, man.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the point of this life is to experience.
Yeah.
You know, to go and, you know, enjoy the show that's being put on.
Yeah, and you know what is, and what me and Mike are really trying to say here to a degree is, like, this is what we know thus far. Because, like, there is correlations in life, and the true causations of everything, we can't get to it, you know. I appreciate the scientists and the biologists and all these people heading to that. Every time they move closer to a causation of something, they find a deeper correlation to what it is. So there's some rhythm and some processes, are like what I call laws and, developments and stuff, that if we follow these paths and use these principles, life seems to work in a more effortless way, regardless of what happens. But the true causation, I don't know if we'll ever get to, but I hope, you know, I keep looking myself and other people keep looking. But in the looking of the true causation or empirical causation of why we're here and why we even have oxygen, why gravity exists, not how to operate in it, what oxygen does to the body, that we already know. But why is it here? But what's interesting is because we don't know, we get to make up stories about it. And therefore is the imagination. And the imagination throws forth a theoretical understanding why, like, a theoretical scientist will go in, like, okay, now I'm going to go into this. If it passes my litmus test of theories, I can then take it forth and study it. And we keep expanding it because we are getting closer. We're getting closer to the understanding of what consciousness is. And it's a fascinating time. But will we ever get there? I don't know. I don't really care because I'm enjoying my time in exploring it, but it really is. But what I've learned because of that, I stay present. And in the present moment, I always seem to know what I need to know in the moment in which I'm in.
Every time.
Every time. It really does. Doesn't matter what happens. But if I think, oh shit, this is happening, I didn't learn about this, I didn't read about this, what the hell am I going to do?
I like where you're going with the
I have
storytelling.
No idea where I'm going.
Well, it's that's what we are. We are storytellers.
We're telling a story.
And so we dive into these experiences and say this happened because of this, and science says this, and science is great. Science is a form of language.
It is a language. Just like French.
It gives people, just like French, just like music.
It's more sophisticated than French. French ain't going to like me saying that.
Well, the thing is, like, science, I heard somebody say this recently. They were like, the more we confirm answers in science, the more we confirm how much we really don't know. Like, the more we find answers, the more it just confirms how much there is that we do not know.
Which on the greater level is exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that in itself, we turn to science a lot in this collective consciousness, at least here in the West, like, oh, science is truth. And it's like, I see why you would say that on a conceptual level, but science is also, a set of stories,
Yeah.
And just because these stories originated from a lab in a controlled environment does not take away the fact that they are still a story. And so as storytellers, we say, well, this was scientifically tested. This must be true. And we carry this story with us, and we live our lives based off of that, It's funny, but we do. And we believe science through and through, and so we experience science through and through. But there's people out there doing the unthinkable, breaking what we would call so-called scientific norms or possibilities,
Well, I think that always has to be that way because what would obviously you have these theoretical scientists, physicists, Einstein, one of them. So they have these theories they follow, and where these ideas come from, they didn't really witness it. But a lot of scientists will witness stuff and want to find out how this came about. And we'll I don't know if we'll ever really know how it came into fruition, but everything that is, I've said this before, and I've heard it. It's not like something I quoted, but everything that is was once imagined. So prior to his existence of us actually seeing it on the physical plane, it came from the infinite possibility plane where everything is in the field of energy was a wave. And then the imaginator, the person who imagined it, then gave it energy or focus onto the physical plane and solidified it into the physical world so you and I can see it.
What we call matter.
Yeah. So then a scientist will go and take an equation, put up against it, and because if it does exist, there has to be a reason. And if it matches an equation, okay, to see how but where did it come from? And this is the amazing thing, There are things people are doing that go against the understanding of, say, physiology. And I was talking to Mike about this earlier. There's a guy out there I've been following for a couple of years now. He's an interesting guy. His name is Wim Hof. And he hiked to the top of Mount Everest in shorts.
Scientifically impossible.
Well, yeah. Well,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would say a lot of people could argue that.
Well, I'm saying, is it scientifically impossible?
Clearly not.
It's not. But I don't think scientists or biologists had seen prior to that. Well, now it is. Now it's, now people might say, well, that guy he's.
I just mean, like, numbers wise, wouldn't he freeze? These type.
It wouldn't be recommended to take his shirt off.
This is what I'm saying, guys. Yeah. We carry these stories. No way could he have done that.
Yeah,
Science says he couldn't.
I can't hike up South Mountain with my shorts
But there's
on
millions
right
of stories like this.
Yeah.
What about the baby who's trapped underneath the car and mom comes and lifts, a 4-ton vehicle to get her baby?
Yeah.
That's happened on record.
Yeah.
But science will tell us no.
Yeah.
This 145-pound woman cannot lift a 4,000-pound car.
Yeah, science is still trying to explain that. So it's
adrenaline.
They're not done. Well, yeah, they replace one story with another.
It was the complete and total no thought of selflessness. I must.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I
we
heard
can't
that,
explain.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because that's even a story too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it is interesting, but One of the stories that can help conclude to some degree is we're the ones actually making up the story and creating the imagination within the field of this program, if you will. Some people like it.
And that's what we call reality.
Yeah. So we're the coders and the gamers at the same time, so to speak. Not to take life down to a minuscule of just pixels, but because life itself is an energy field. Pixels are just a focus point in the physical world, but there really isn't any. We have to understand matter is just a vibrating frequency at a lower dense frequency, so you can't put your hand through it. But I'm not touching the table. There's an electromagnetic field that's putting pressure from me in the table. That's really what's going on. So I'm not really touching it, but there's a field, like two magnets at the same pole will push on each other. But it feels like there's something there, but you can see there's nothing there. So if I had a microscope or some type of measurement tool that can go under there, there would be a space between this piece of glass in my hand. Mm-hmm. So why is that? So why do we need to know that? Because we are finding out right now through mind and thought, we can change and alter, we can transmute the physical world that we live in by changing the frequency. So when I transmute my psychology or way I think about something, when I change my perspective, I naturally automatically change the output of frequency, and all of a sudden the physicality of the world shifts and changes. This is what genetics, when doctors talk about genetic makeup, like your genes are what you have because you were born into them. Well, what created the gene? A belief. So what my ancestors were believing passed down to my grandparents and then my parents, and they passed it on to me. So my genetic makeup is a culmination of beliefs sent down through millennia, through the lineage in which I was, and it created. So beliefs and genes are one and the same, right? What's nature and nurture? Always trying to figure that one out. Nature and nurture are the same thing, because what is nature? Nature is your genes that you were given. What's nurture? The way you were treated. Well, the way you were treated was brought down through millennia through the avenue which your family came through. So your grandparents taught your parents how to be parents, and they pass it down. But there's always this alteration in the way we think. So that's why genes continuously change. So how we believe and look at it alters our genetic makeup.
And they're proving this with epigenetics.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I know one of the people I listen to. I've read his
proven. They have proven, I should say.
Yeah, and
that genes ultimately don't affect, like, just because your grandmother's mother had cancer, et cetera, that this gene you carry.
Yeah, but if you were told your grandmother and her mother died of cancer, it's like, oh shit, I'm gonna get cancer. And because of that belief, you can trigger that gene.
Exactly.
Or if you look,
it lies dormant.
Yeah, or you can look upon, and that's the story we're telling ourselves. Mm-hmm. So Bruce Lipton,
but our stories create the reality. So these stories that we tell ourselves,
yes, they do.
Ultimately,
they solidify it because where does the story come from? Our imagination. That's why I would tell a story. Like my dad would be like, "You got some imagination." I'm like,
"Yeah, well, you don't even know."
Yeah. And he would change my imagination by smacking me across the head.
I lost a few genes.
Jesus Christ.
That's funny.
Just joking, Pops.
That's good.
Yeah, he's 84 years old. He'd probably knock me out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But so one of the books I had read several years ago was Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief.
He's awesome.
And what's interesting is, not even coming from a science background at all. Obviously, took science in school. I understand it to some level. But living life, and I believe there's something innate in all of us. When you hear something that's what we call empirical truth, even though it can't fully be explained, but the empirical truth is leading us in a direction, or pointing us in a direction, you can't help to nod your head. It's like, why does that make sense? I've never read this before. Because I think there is something in our DNA, of strands of DNA that actually haven't even been touched yet, maybe different frequencies, kind of like parts of a mountain you haven't touched yet with your feet because you're still midway up the mountain, but yet you can see it, you know it's there, but you haven't experienced it yet. And when they study these different levels of genetic, your DNA, there are placements of different things happening, regeneration. And I don't mean just cutting the arm. I'm like, if you cut your finger off, you can actually have it grow back. But right now, in the state of survival, the reason it doesn't grow back is because I'm scared about bleeding out, so I seal it. But one day you won't be, maybe one day we won't be scared of that and the finger will grow back. Now, this is all good and said, and I love the fact that we look at that, but I'm not waiting to walk on water in order to be happy. I'm not. I'm not waiting to cut my finger off so it can grow back. Mm-hmm. I want to be present, but knowing that there's more to this, that this isn't it, is what makes me stay present. That's what we're talking about. Staying present is what allows me to open up. But if I'm not present, I'm here and there, and if I'm in the past, I'm in the future, it's very difficult for me to translate information that's coming to me, and I'll either fully buy into it and be gullible and not learn anything, or completely disassociate and deny it. And you don't learn anything there either. But when you're present, you got this sense of skepticism, but like, okay, I'm listening. And then all of a sudden I'll take a little bit of information, and then I'll go and act it. When I mean enact it, I'll experience it. Because I could sit here all day intellectualizing, reading all the books in the world, and I don't know. But once I read something and then I experience it, I'm like, holy shit, now I know. And now I come in and I try to intellectualize myself and get nowhere near it. I was talking to Mike about this. I'll meditate, or I'll be driving a car and a thought will come to me, boom. And I'm assuming this happens to everybody. I'm not assuming that I'm any more special than anyone else. And these impact of thoughts come in. And all of a sudden, the rest of the day, I'm like, how do I explain this? How do I get this out there? And so all these analogies come up. I'm like, it's kind of like this, it's kind of like that. And I could sit there for an hour with all these analogies and still not get there. But yet, I've experienced it. And why do I want to explain it? Because I want other people to know I'm telling the truth, and I can never do that. So I just sit there and talk about it and joke around and play around.
There is something about wanting others to experience this piece. Because I feel that with my family. I feel it with my friends and stuff like that.
And I'm actually learning to let go of that too.
Well, no, that
drives me nuts.
Well, that's it. And I've noticed I've kind of taken my foot off the gas when it comes to that, because we're all playing in each other's stories, and we're all playing a role that projections of one another, etc. And so, for me to try to force anything or to try to enlighten someone is. It's just...
It's arrogant.
It is. It's arrogant, but
I wouldn't want it done to me.
But it's also more like...
That's the golden rule. Do unto others, right?
I don't know how to explain it. It's more like it's not helpful. Is probably the best way to say it.
That's a great way of saying it. It really isn't helpful because... And correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever I came across this stuff, it was never done in a forceful way. It was like... There was always a book there or a person there a lot of times to validate it, but they weren't like, you got to read this, you got to do it. We grew up going to school doing this. You got to do this. You want to be something, you got to read this, you got to do that.
Or in church, they did that.
And I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah, well, they did it everywhere.
Yeah.
Church is no different than school in that sense. They're selling you, and it's not that they were ill-willed, but if I'm teaching you how to travel and get somewhere, and I tell you to put the cart in front of the horse and have the horse put the cart, it's going to be a hell of a ride. But without knowing that, because I didn't know if you put the horse in front of the cart, you can actually sit on the cart, and then you can direct the horse, and it's such an easier ride than if you put the cart in front of the horse, your job is to make sure the horse is pushing straight, make sure there's no deviation in the road, so you don't even enjoy the ride. You're actually you have to sit there. You're doing all the work.
Frank, I love that. That's totally what we're trying to do here at Perspective Shift. Frank and I are trying to help you enjoy your ride.
Yeah, that's it.
We want you to, how did you say it? Experience like the ride, experience the what did you just say?
I have no idea to say. Just shit just flies out of my head.
I know.
I get in trouble for this all the time.
But I just love, I love that because that's, Frank and I are showing you how to travel.
Yes, travel.
That's a great way to say this. Frank and I want to show you how to travel because that's what we're doing. We're constantly watching this subconscious mind unfold, and we're giving meaning to it.
And then we're also suggesting, you don't have to take it, that when you enter into a different village, don't assume because it's something you've never seen that it's something wrong.
Or something better than you've experienced before.
Yeah, it's just different. But a lot of times people's knee-jerk reactions like something's wrong here. And when you enter into a field of something's wrong here, you're going to get the evidence something's wrong here. And what I mean by that is it's not preferential. Like, I remember talking to somebody about these ideas about, I remember I was doing a talk one time and I was talking about our beliefs dictate our lives and stuff like that. And I went into the quantum physics person was like, I don't believe that. And I'm like, well, you just proved my point.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, have you had evidence onto what I'm talking about? To like, no. I'm like, what evidence you had? I had evidence that things go wrong. And I'm like, it's because you believe that. So the point I'm making is I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm talking about the structure of why belief works. Whether you go east or west, physics works. But if you want to go west and you're heading east, it's rather frustrating. So you're experiencing frustrating, what we call non-preferential aspect. But the physics of the car will still allow you. If I'm doing 100 miles an hour in the direction in which I want to go, the car still does 100 miles an hour. It doesn't slow it down. I myself, as the unit in the car, are frustrated and not enjoying it. So when they said that, I said, you're proving my point by saying that. I am not telling what you should believe, though, because my belief and what I know is different than what Mike knows and to a degree what Mike believes. So it's not what I believe. It's how I feel about my belief. It's how I feel about what I do, why it works.
Guys, what you believe is just a story. Frank and I want you to be able to drop the beliefs and see, everything is just an experience. It just is. It is. It isness. It's just now.
Or if you're at a level, don't drop the belief, but fully immerse yourself in the belief. But make sure the belief is working in your favor. Like if you have a belief in a religion, and there's nothing wrong with this, actually works. But what happens is you're questioning it, is why it's coming up short. Not because the belief is wrong. It's because, like I said, I used this analogy before. If I head left and do not look left, and I look right as I'm moving left and wonder why I keep crashing into the curb or the tree, whatever obstacle's in the way, and then I say to myself, I shouldn't have gone left. I'm like, left wasn't the problem. The problem was you weren't looking in the direction in which you were traveling. You were looking in the opposite direction. So if I believe, or I want to believe this is to be true, but I don't believe it's to be true, I'm not going to get the true evidence of it. I have to, if I'm heading left, I must look left in order to have a safe journey.
See, and that's, and when Frank says like heading to the left, that is your focus, your body, your mind, your experience, your thoughts, all in the same energy, all focused in one, moving in the direction.
It's trusting the direction in which you want to go. If I don't trust fully in left, that's why I'm looking right as I'm turning left. So it's the lack of trust. And what is lack of trust? It's lack of focus, period.
And lack of trust could be you saying this probably might not work because
and
of
actually,
this.
there isn't a lack of trust. I remember hearing Bashar say this. He said, doubt is trusting in something you don't want 100% of the time.
It's the same thing because, like anything, doubt.
So there really isn't a lack of trust. There's this: what are you trusting in? That it's going to work or it's not going to work.
where do you want to be?
Yeah, so that's more accurate.
Yeah. That's great.
There is no lack of anything. It's just what do you trust? What are you putting your trust in? Now, I want it to work. Well, then put your trust in that. But what happens if this happens? Well, now you're taking away the trust. Faith is the ultimate aspect of trust. And in order to get into a state of faith, and from my experience, I took like something small that had no real deep matter to it, like if it worked out or not, it was no big deal. And I put my faith into it, and I did it, and oh my God, it worked. And then you wake up and you hear that story that...
Do you remember what that was?
Yeah. It was getting... Yeah, I was getting over the concept of... for me, like people are like, oh, it was money. For me, it wasn't money. Somehow I always knew... Money always came to me. Even though I worried about money, I'm not saying
Everyone.
I never did worry.
Yeah, very natural.
But that wasn't it. It was my level of intellect. Growing up, I was told, and I bought into it, that I was... learning disabled.
Okay.
And, it's like, oh, shit, And I bought into it at the surface level, but I didn't buy into it. I'm like, fuck you, assholes.
Yeah.
Fucking tell me I'm stupid.
Totally.
So then I would make up facts about shit.
I'll show you.
Which made me even more stupider. But stupider. There you go. That's a word.
I know what you meant.
No, so I was told this, and to some degree I believed into it, so I kind of just shut out. But then I realized, I'm like, okay, without having the intellectual ability to argue against it, I just went along with it. Mm-hmm. And it was almost like, Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
Andy, what was the guy's last name?
I don't know his last name.
Yeah, so Tim Robbins' character, he was falsely accused and put in prison. But when he came to a realization that I'm here, I'm just going to do the best I can, and he surrendered to it.
That's what we all need to do.
So I surrendered to the fact that, okay, I can't intellectually explain to these people that I'm not an idiot. Mm-hmm. And these people aren't to blame either. They were based off of a mathematical calculation.
I was going to say, this is all the conditioning, saying if you don't spit this out like this.
If you looked at my transcript, it was correct. But
what's the transcript?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that was
when you go to the bank
that was the
for a loan. Do they say, "Can I see your GPA?"
So that was the evidence I had to learn. So I'm not blaming anyone. Actually, they're the stone to my blade. They sharpen my blade. So would I be more knowledgeable, intellectual, curious if it wasn't for that? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I can't say. Not, but
and if to say anything else would be you making a story up about it.
Yeah. So, but I maybe this is what Christ came along and said, love thy enemy. So the enemy is what we call the opposer, or someone who's opposing us. And I get it. You love them because that is, I've heard somebody say this before, but I don't want people to agree with me all the time. Very seldom I want to agree with me because I don't even want to agree with what I'm saying because as we started this off, even the words of my explanation are nowhere near what we're trying to explain. I have an experience. I knew as a child I was not an idiot, but I couldn't explain it. And I try to spend my life explaining it. So I started reading all these books and stuff like that, and I'm trying to prove stuff. And I'm like, I'm the idiot. I was watching like a Jerry Springer show one time, and it just popped into my head, where this guy came out and he was picked on by this other kid in school. And so the guy comes out and they showed a picture of him when he was younger, and now he's just like freaking jacked up guy, angry, bad. I'm going to show him. The guy comes out and he's just like, hey, dude, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while. And it seems sincere. It could have been made up and shit. Like, you don't know the Jerry Springer show. But all of a sudden he's like, and the guy stands up. As the guy sitting down on the couch, the guy who's all jacked now that was being picked on as a student in, I think it was in junior high school. And the guy's like, what's up? He's like, I want to let you know you ruined my life. He's like, dude, I'm sorry. I didn't have no idea. Like, he was sincere. Like, I had no idea. This guy lifted weights and did everything he could do for this very moment in which you meet this guy, and it was anticlimactic. Yeah, it was like, and this guy was like,
That's how most of us live our lives.
I had no idea I did this. I had no idea I meant this for me.
But instead of that guy, it's your parents or, an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yeah. But now I don't know what happened after that, but the guy that actually got jacked and stuff like that and whatever, he could easily turn around. He could transmute the idea or the perception onto it and transfer it and says, well, if I was never picked on, I would never get to this place where I am right now.
Exactly. And I hope he chooses that.
Well, I'm sure he
story.
did. Yeah. I'm wishing for he did. So all of a sudden that enemy you come to love because according to him, if he was never picked on, he wouldn't be at this place. But yet he wanted to tell the guy. So it's a very funny thing. It's a very funny thing. But this is the games we play, And that's why love thy enemy has a different meaning to me now. Everyone can translate the way they want. And I believe if you translate it the way you do, you're correct. I'm just offering a different one. It's because that polar opposite, what we call enemy or opposition, is where I get my strength from because it supports me. But the person right next to me in a balancing point doesn't really support me. But they're encouraging me to keep going. So you need both support and questioning, so to speak. It's just like in life, I need to be comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time. I was talking about this earlier with my buddy. And life, the theme of life seems like when you can willingly place yourself in discomfort and get comfortable with the uncomfortable, that seems to be a theme that runs through life. But if you don't, and you just always sit and find comfort, your comfort will eventually become uncomfortable. So there is this natural expansion. And my buddy's like, what do you mean? I'm like,
people know this.
Yeah, I'm like, if you go out, like you work your ass off, you go to the gym and do all this stuff. And like, my buddy's a guy, like he works all the time and he'll do 2 days at the gym. He's like mountain biking, in the morning and like powerlifting at the end of the day. He's very focused human being. But then it's like, you sit down and watch the program and you just freaking melt into the couch. Well, can you imagine like 2 weeks later, you're sitting on the couch? You know how uncomfortable that would be? So there is always this fluctuation of comfort and discomfort. Now, the thing is, I'm going to use the couch analogy. If I just say on the couch, you have taken the control of the comfort and discomfort away. But when you go forth in the direction which you inspire to, you're in control of the comfort and then welcome the discomfort. There's a different feeling. One is you're being thrown around by the world. The other one's you actually become the alchemist in which you were born to be. You actually transmute because you got to keep transmuting. I got to take this burst of energy and place it into this place, and then it becomes discomfort, and then it becomes comfortable again. It's a cycle. But I want to wake up in the morning and jump out of bed because I want to control my discomfort, not be controlled by the discomfort. So metaphorically, the couch controls the discomfort and the comfort. I want to control it. So the gym, heading to the gym is where I'm in control, so to speak. And I'm just you don't have to go to the gym. This is just a metaphoric aspect of it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's part and parcel of what I do. And also sitting here talking about stuff that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Hey, we're trying to describe the undescribable.
Yeah, and I don't know. You guys let us know how we're doing.
Yeah, right. So personally for me, Frank, when I really started to understand and experience these principles, it was exciting for me. I started to see, as we were talking about in the beginning, we are storytellers. So I began to actually see the narrative that was going on in my head and what I'd been carrying, unconsciously for years. These stories of, what are you going to do if this happens? Are you going to have enough? How are you going to support a family? You should be further along in life. These are all very common things. And I began to see that, oh, wow, these are all stories that I'm carrying with me that are weighing me down, right? And so this became very clear to me. And this is what people often refer to as an awakening. You begin to awaken to the commentary in your head and realizing, wow, that's not me. I'm a witness to that commentary. You're an awareness. So this was such a mind-blowing experience for me personally, and I loved it. And then I started to kind of see, like, okay, if I can carry these stories that I don't like and that have been holding me back, I can begin to carry new stories that I would like to experience, right? And that create the story I want to experience. So then I started, focusing. People refer to this in the new age woo-woo like stuff as manifestation. You manifest, what you want to experience. And that's great. Yes, you can manifest certain experiences that you want. And so that's great. That's exciting, just like anything. Then you come to a point where you see that also is a set of stories. Yes, a set of preferential stories that you would like to experience. And then you kind of see the whole game for what it is. And this is what Frank and I really, really like to get at, which is this entire reality is a story. Everything you are experiencing as it unfolds is your mind categorizing it and assigning a meaning and creating a story about why it's happening, whether it's good or bad for you, whether it can lead to something. And it's all a story.
Yeah. And because we are the storytellers in any situation, circumstance that arises that you're unfamiliar with, you actually have the choice of choosing the perspective that's preferential for the output in which you're seeing.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's like when you step above this, as what they call, when you start to master these principles, you navigate. But then you could actually become what we call a master, and actually you can actually then create. So we're going back and forth, and I have no idea where I am on the scale. I know life is a lot more exciting for me. But I don't even know what to label. Like how does one know they're a master or they're just mastering? Or how do I know? Like I'm
absolutely
full of shit as well. But I understand. I'm getting better with the understanding of the feeling of excitement opposed to the feeling of anxiety. I now know the difference. They're the same frequency. They're the same energy, just moving through a different filter.
Labeled differently.
Yeah, well, you're looking at it differently. So, like anxiety would be doing 100 miles an hour in the direction you didn't want to go. 100 miles an hour, moving in a car 100 miles an hour would be going in the direction in which you want to go is excitement. Mm-hmm. You're still moving 100 miles an hour in the direction. One creates anxiety, the other one creates excitement. So the 100 miles an hour is the same frequency. It's just a different lens you're putting it through, a different filter. In other words, heading west is where I want to go. That's exciting. Heading east is not where I want to go. That's anxiety. So again, this doesn't even come close to, because anxiety and depression are words we put out there. People can touch on them. But we actually have the ability to transmute and transfer the energy into the direction in which we want to go on a dime.
Well, that's the thing. People
will say, "No, it's possible."
How? And it's very simple. Let go.
Let go.
You as soon as you are aware, I'm moving east, but I want to be going west. So you became aware.
So yeah.
that right there is a huge moment for you personally. That is the awakening. It's you seeing what's going on. You are now aware.
Yeah.
Now you're no longer part of the stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're no part. That stream of commentary. You've disassociated from it. That right there is a win, and you let go.
Yeah. So it's. To get to a practical manner to help people out there or to see it, I don't know if you could fully get there, but so if I found myself moving in the wrong direction, I became aware of it. That's the sense of enlightenment. Now, because I'm enlightened, what do? Well, once I take my foot off the gas, the car naturally slows down. And what I mean is, when I detach from it, the physics are already done for me. Like, in other words, taking my foot off the gas, the car naturally slows down. So once you recognize you're going the wrong direction, you naturally slow it down. So once you recognize what we call a negative field, you actually start moving in the positive direction. So all you're doing now is transferring the frequency and moving it differently into another direction. But we don't do the work. We witness the work being done. I don't create the oxygen molecules for me to breathe. I don't make the sun come up. I don't know any human being that does, but we witness it. So why is everything else we have to do? We don't. But my attention to the sun is what makes it so when I look at it via rising in the east or setting in the west. Me breathing in consciously oxygenate my body gives me more control. But if I don't focus on it, I'll still breathe. But I feel sluggish, not like that. But when I do this all the time to people, like, I'm feeling tired. I'm like, you ever do breathing exercise? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, breathe in deep. And I have them do these panting type. I do it 10 times.
Box breathing. They do that in the military.
Yeah, so I do
or
it.
The SEALs or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's done all over. Like, these are ancient breathing techniques. So it's different.
We all just label it differently.
Yeah. Well, it's not that
you're not a hippie. You're a Marine, so it's called box breathing.
Well, there's a reason the Navy SEAls use it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it freaking works.
But you see what I mean? Yeah. Like, if you were to say, hey, you're meditating, that Navy SEAL says, hey, no, that's for hippies. I'm box breathing. Well, we put these ideas and connotations. That's their story. I'm no hippie. I don't meditate.
The Navy SEAL of today might use the word meditate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but you see, it takes time. You know? Yeah. It's like, it's so funny.
Because the association.
It is. Yeah. It's all what our mind associates it. Yeah. And it's because we've seen it in movies and film and, television.
Do you know what's nice about today? It's like, even though we're flipping one story for the other story.
Every time.
We're not crushing the other story, which is nice.
We don't need to. And that's what we've been trying to do for.
Before it was like, which is the best story?
This is wrong.
Yeah. Now it's like we're coming out with new ideas. Like, when I listen to somebody talk about this or talk about that, I'm like, wow, these are interesting topics. But one doesn't negate the other. They just expand into the field. So we don't need to. There was a point where people were like, well, what's the truth? I'm like, all truths are true. What truth is for you at the moment in which you're in? That's what you have to discover.
And guys, ask yourself, or when you're asking yourself, why is something this way? Or how is this? Why is this like this? This shouldn't be this way. Take a step back and say, am I creating a story about this? Because every time the answer is going to be yes. And then it's very easy to detach from that story. Yeah. Because everything, down to if you work out that morning, if you don't, what you wear that day, these are all stories. And when you see them on their face for what they are, it loosens up and it doesn't become as rigid and this is that. This is just a story I'm telling myself about this.
Yeah, going back to what you just said. So in the morning when I'm getting dressed to go out, I could get excited, or I could have anxiety that this shirt doesn't look good on me. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, I'm putting the shirt on. So how I look at it...
What story do I want to carry?
Yeah, that's the alchemist in me. Now, the thing is this. The understanding of an alchemist would not choose to have anxiety over the shirt they put on. It isn't even the shirt. Because think about this. You bought the damn shirt. It's sitting in your closet. You tried it on, and when you try it on, oh, man, this looks good. All of a sudden, a week later, I'm like, I look like shit. It's like... It's the energy field in which you're projecting out at the time you're looking in the mirror that's altering the way you look. And it's not false. It's true from the standpoint of how we look at ourselves. So someone else, but when you change the way you feel, you change the way you look at yourself. That is true. Now, do you prefer that? It's like, no. Well, then transmute it into a preferential feeling. Sometimes you have to walk away from the mirror. Sometimes you have to change the shirt. Whatever you do to distract yourself. But even that onto itself is a permission slip. But there's nothing wrong with stories. There's nothing wrong with permission slip. Matter of fact, I was telling Mike today, and I was going to steal a structured quote from Einstein when he said, either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. And I'm not going to use that. I'm going to say either everything is a placebo or nothing's a placebo. And it's something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, because the more and more scientists go into stuff, they're finding this placebo effect works. Everything is a placebo. Everything is a permission slip. A placebo doesn't mean fake. It means powering up or positive up. And even the permission slip, Like, in other words, if I had a rabbit's foot in my pocket and it made me feel lucky, and just by touching my pocket, I remembered I was lucky, all of a sudden I'll have a lucky day. But I don't think the power is in the rabbit's foot, but it reminds me of something that's innate in me, that I am powerful. So therefore, I can carry it. But I'm also aware it's not the rabbit's foot. But there's nothing wrong with having the rabbit's foot. Because sometimes not having anything can be difficult. Sometimes we need something to focus on. Tell the story. Have the rabbit's foot. Whatever it is, to keep our attention on the goal. And I think that's part and parcel of the physical world which we're in. So I'm not telling people that, if it's a placebo, why take it? Because taking that sugar pill is what allows you to get rid of the headache.
And what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
You came here for a role.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're just going to sit there and not play the game that you came here to play?
But what we do is, as we change our perception, we naturally move in a direction of path of least resistance. So when I was on a tricycle, the path of least resistance was a lot different than the bicycle, and certainly was a lot different than the car, certainly a lot different than the plane. But at all the moments in time, they were all the path of least resistance at the moment in which I was in. But I wouldn't say the tricycle was wrong, the bicycle was wrong, the car was wrong, because now I'm in the airplane. Says the guy in the rocket, says, well, the hell with you, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, and then now when I learned to teleport, and all of a sudden that becomes it. I don't know if there's anything above.
I can't wait till we teleport.
We already are.
Yeah,
we teleport all the time. We're just not aware of it. You know, when I close my eyes and meditate, I teleport.
That's it.
Yeah. And then right before, I was going to say something stupid, and I don't have to say sorry to Karen because I didn't say it.
Catch it
yeah,
on.
Karen's like, what? What did you say? I'm
yeah,
like,
now it's worse.
I was going to say something really stupid, but I didn't say it.
Let your old imagination run wild.
Oh my God,
yep.
That I could have came back.
That's worse, dude.
I would have came back from this one.
The imagination now it's just the sky's the limit with what it could have been.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny what our minds do?
Kayla would have had to beep that out. Beep, beep, beep. Like,
we're serious. This is going to be our first edit we've ever made on any of our recordings ever. We need to edit this one.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. But that's it, guys. We are storytellers.
Yeah.
We take experiences, we give meaning to them, and then we allow our emotions to experience that.
Yeah.
All these senses, taste, touch, smell, hear, that's all what reality is. It's an experience.
Yeah, exactly what
it's not the meaning we're assigning to it. It's the experience.
Think about what you just said, all right? Which is brilliant. Mike's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah. Remember, you know the phrase that says, life is imitating art? Well, art is the function of what we call the imagination. And then it came out. How do you think we've learned to live? Because the imagination created a story and put it in film or a book, and then we started living that way. Cultures are created, in a sense, in Hollywood, in our culture. In other cultures, it's different. That's why, like, you look at indigenous cultures that don't really record, or they continue on, and they live the same way because they keep replicating it. That's it. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But we want to up each other. Oh, you think that story is good? Check this story out. And then Quentin Tarantino comes like, oh, you think that's good? I'm going to mess you completely up and say it in a different form. You're like, whoa. But yet, that's what happens. Then all of a sudden, you start to see the culture change because they're watching it. And it's like, oh. And what it's doing is it's giving us opportunity and chance to expand with a different perspective onto what we're doing. But there's so many more stories out there, so many more themes out there that will never be done. Just like we said there's 26 letters in the alphabet, there's 12 notes in music. But we're never going to run out of music. We're never going to run out of novels or language. We never will. Even with that infinite or that finite amount of resources, it's infinite. And resources aren't really finite if you can infinitely use them. And so someone says, well, resources are finite. I'm like, yeah, at one level they are, but the replication are infinite. You might have one ear of corn, but you can keep replicating. And I don't mean through Monsanto's, where you're falling. I'm talking the earth can replicate it over and over and over. Think about how many stalks of corn we've had over the millennia. All right? We're not running out. But it seems finite, but in that finite state, there's infinite possibilities. And that's the most amazing thing. That's all I need to know in this moment. I don't need to know anything else. I really don't. And in that, I begin to understand, to the level in which I can understand, new concepts. I learn new. And now it excites me because I like to step into the wilderness and not need to know what I'm stepping into and know I'm going to be okay. And knowing everything will present itself as I get there. I don't need to prepare for it because I don't even know what to prepare for.
You'd be preparing for a mind-created story.
Yeah, all the stuff that I told you. You got to prepare yourself for this. You got to prepare for that. I'm like, prepare myself for what? And all of a sudden, in the preparing, I learned there's nothing to prepare for. Does
a bird have a life insurance policy?
They should.
Does a bird worry about the branch breaking that it's sitting on?
No, because it can fly.
Exactly. We're the same thing.
Yeah.
We're the same thing.
Yeah, actually, so, there's a great correlation with our worry and fear and anxiety and depression, how it alters the frequency and output, and it changes what we call the chemistry of our body, which is directly related to your immune system. And when the immune system breaks down, the body can't really last that much longer. So death comes in a form of illness.
Stress is the number one killer.
Yeah, and they're coming to that, actually, you know what the number one real killer is? Life.
What do you mean?
If you were never alive, you couldn't die. So
it's true.
And I don't mean to be joking. I'm like, the number one cause of death is birth.
Well, yeah, because you will for sure die.
Yeah. So like they say, what's the number one cause of divorce?
Marriage.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And we laugh at that, but that is true.
Without marriage,
if you never got married, you couldn't divorce. So you have to be able to be okay with either one. So the moment you came and agreed to be born, you also agreed to die. Just like I agree every day for the sun to come up, I also agree for the sun to go down and a new day appear. I agree when I breathe in, I must breathe out. When I agree to be comfortable, I agree to be uncomfortable. These agreements, whether you remember them or not, because I have a lot of agreements I don't remember. Like Karen's like, hey, we're going. I'm like, I don't remember that agreement. It's like that's why I get in trouble a lot because I forgot the agreement. But sometimes I don't believe I agreed on shit, but I go along with it anyway because I just don't want to argue.
Path of least resistance.
So, hey, I'm like, I don't remember talking about that. She goes, you don't remember anything. So now you're going to make me like a freaking... She convinced me to go get my hearing checked. She did. It was funny. I show up to the place. I go in there. The guy's like, so why are we here? I'm like, well, my girlfriend thinks I'm hard of hearing. He goes, oh, I'm here to finalize the dispute. I'm like, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm here to finalize.
And he looks at it.
I like the doctor.
Yeah, he told me, he's like, yeah, your hearing's fine. On the higher decibels, it's natural, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was funny. So what I was like, yes. So I go home and I realize, well, wait a minute. If I tell Karen I'm not hard of hearing, I have another problem. It's called not listening.
Yeah,
like I'm screwed either way.
That's awesome.
So I came home with like fake hearing aids.
So now I'm playing the long game on this one.
Playing the real long game.
Now I've got fake fake hearing aids.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. This is probably why they thought I was an idiot as a child. Yeah, it's starting to make sense now.
But it's funny because these are kind of the pretzels we twist ourselves into in daily life when we allow mind to really...
How do I get out of this?
Yeah, that's the thing. And when we're trying to create solutions in the same mental frequency, if you will, you will never find the right answer.
yeah.
And in fact, you twist yourself up into this goofy-looking pretzel that now has 2 hearing aids.
But the quickest way out of it is you confess and say, yeah, I'm sorry.
It's the letting go.
And you actually unravel the pretzel.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you wake up tomorrow again, like, now it's like, well, how do I ravel the pretzel and not get lost? You keep trying. You keep like, I'm going to do this.
That's the mind. And that's what we do, in and out, And it's like, well, what about this? What about... And it's... When you see the mind for what it is, which is, an subconscious stream of mental commentary that you can disassociate with, then true change begins to take hold in your life. Because that's all this is, this twisting, this, I better do this. If I don't do this, this will happen. This is a bunch of stories, and you are identifying with the stream of stories in your head.
And what Mike means by true change is constant. We have nothing to do with it. It means preferential change.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone knew that, but because when we have control of it, we choose the perspective in how to look at the change that's happening, and that's just it. Yeah, I could sit here and talk about what's happening in the world, and I could say this is great,
and that's just our story.
Yeah, but yet I could agree to someone this is happening. And we could all come to agreement, but it's like, we're going to hell in a handbag. I'm like, oh, no, it's not how I see it. I think things are getting better. And we're not talking about something different. It's just we're looking at it different.
Yeah, what story do you want to carry?
Yeah. And
you're going to carry one.
And it works. And I've been doing it for a while, so I don't take this for granted. But when people do get stuck in that negative, or what I call non-preferential, I try to help them out of it and ease out of it, because before the grace of God, there goes I. I don't tell them they're an idiot for thinking that way, because they're not. No. Because someone easily tell me I'm just Pollyanna for thinking the way I am, and maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I'm like, we'll find out at the end of the day. But I've noticed is when I think in this preferential way and tell the story the way I like it, I have an amazing journey. Yeah, things happen.
And an abundant journey.
Oh, yeah. It's an amazing abundant journey. Situations, circumstances, obstacles still come my way. But then I'm like, I remind myself, I've been here before, or I had obstacles before, and I've gotten around them. And getting around them just energized me. It's like the stone meeting the blade where the blade just sharpens. And part of why we're here, I believe, is to sharpen our blade, so to speak, become more refined. The more refined we become, the path of least resistance becomes easier.
Who knows? I mean, that could be each incarnation, everyone before this, just us kind of sharpening that blade, like you're saying.
Yeah, we've
lived thousands of lives before this.
I have a knowing that I know, but I can't prove it, so I'm not going to say I know it. And that's the truth. Because there's something I know that's sacred in me, and I can have this conversation with my inner self, whether it's the spirits, I don't know what you call it. But I'm not going to be outwardly and say this is how it is. That would be ignorant of me to say, because I can't explain what I know, just like no one can explain what they know. But when we get into these conversations and open up, it piques something, because at some level we are all connected. So there is this connectiveness with us. But I don't know how Mike looks at mine and his connection. And how and he probably doesn't know fully how I look at the connection, but there's a connection there. I can't explain it. So I try, I'm like, I'm not going to try to explain it, but then I want to explain it, because I get excitement out of it.
That's it.
But I also know I'm never going to get there. Or maybe I will. I don't know. But I'm going to try and have fun with it. But that also takes my ego. I have to take my ego out more and more. And that's part of it.
Well, to truly get there, it would just be silence.
Yeah, and I get there, and then it goes.
But you know what I mean?
Goes. Yeah.
I'm always like, what's the best way to explain this? And then the best way is this.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it. And there it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like...
You just said it.
Yeah, there's no word.
You just said it. That's it. And I believe and a lot of people, intellectual people, had said this, and which is interesting because they're very intellect and they study and language, whether it's English or any, it's intellectual, obviously, of all language. But that language is very cumbersome.
Clumsy.
And I'm like, here's an intellect saying that, and I'm trying to become more intellectual. I'm like, you mean I had it right in the beginning?
God damn.
It's like I climbed all the way top of the mountain, like, oh, the valley is so much better. I'm like, fuck me.
Frank, that's truly the paradox.
Why did you scream down the mountain and tell me this
You're
shit?
just fine.
No, stay where you are. You're fine.
Oh, that's awesome. That is the meaning of life.
Yeah, it is.
Is to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we're all doing with all of the experiences.
Yeah.
We do this to realize,
Get out of here.
yeah. There was nowhere to be, nothing to do.
And think about this. That's what it is. We're all trying to get home.
Yes.
But we had to some way psychologically leave home to get home. Just like we had to take ourselves out of comfort in order to get into discomfort, for discomfort to bring me back to comfort. It's a circle. All energy moves in a circular motion. That's why we have orbits. You know, everything seems to be round. Everything's round. So all energy moves in a spheric or a circle. So there's something to this. Why? Hell if I know. But I don't need to know why there's gravity. I just need to know how to operate within the field of gravity in order to have what we call a safe journey, a lasting journey. I don't know why God created gravity and the planet. I don't know why. But I don't need to know why. I'm having fun. I don't need to get to a point where I can teleport in order to have fun. But knowing it's out there is what keeps me waking up every day. So it's nice knowing that it's possible, but I don't necessarily need to get to it. But yet, I'm moving towards it, you know? It's like moving towards the summit.
We naturally move ourselves towards what we focus on.
Yes. So remember, like, again, I'm using the summit as a preferential way. If you keep your eyes on the summit, you'll be fine.
It goes back to the knowing.
Yeah. Just recognize your summit. And remember, don't have anyone ever tell you what you should do. Because when they do, you'll realize, sometimes there's correlations and they get it. Maybe they were reading your mind. Like sometimes my parents were right.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. But, and the reason we push back on advice is because 99% of the advice we're given was wrong. And it wasn't that the people ill will or trying to get in trouble. I can't give directions to my buddy that lives in New York to San Diego from where I am because they're like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, I could tell them to trust their GPS. That's as far as I go as far as advice.
Your inner voice.
But I would not give them the map that I'm using to get to San Diego.
Excuse me, I shouldn't say your inner voice. I should say your intuition. Your higher.
Yeah.
Higher. Well, the inner voice. No, I want people to disassociate from the mind, because the mental commentary, you've lived so much as the mental commentary and as the stream of thought that you think you are that.
So when you're talking about like the echo chamber.
Yeah. That's what I don't want that to be confused with.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why I can never give somebody else instruction on what to do. Like all the time, people ask me, "Hey, I have to go talk to somebody. How do you think I should approach it? What should I say?" And I'm like, listen, get into a state. And in other words, you care about this person. Yes. What's going on? Okay. Can you see them getting out of the trouble or circumstance in which you see is trouble? And like, what do you mean? I'm like, if you could see them getting out of the situation and you could see them rising above it and you fully immerse yourself in it, you'll know what to say to them. But I can't preempt what you just say to them because I'm not there. Because it's gonna sound manufactured. It's like me reading somebody else's speech. It's not mine, so I can't really put my energy into it. I don't even preempt what I'm going to say. It's like when I sit down with Mike, we don't know what we're going to say, but we never run out of shit to say. We never do. But we feed off each other. We have a ritual, and the ritual is he comes over and we shoot the shit for a couple minutes and we meditate, and then all of a sudden he and I discuss what came up in the meditation. I'm like, let's go with that. So right before we hit record and everything, we have a little widget on the table we'll focus on, and then we know that widget's going to expand into the field in which we're talking about. But we have no idea like the rest of you until it's over. But that's what we love. And I think that's what makes it genuine, and hopefully people dig it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the shift of perspective, you know?
And that's what we're going for here, guys.
Yeah.
Frank and I love doing this. It's, again, something we do, at least I do, for myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know?
This is for me.
Yeah. And so getting to share this with you guys makes it even more of that experience.
Yeah.
Thank you for all tuning in.
The other thing I do for myself is I sleep, but I wouldn't want to record that and share it with you. That'd be a little weird.
Hey, shoot us an email.
Yeah.
Frank will send you a video of him asleep. we'll
Karen's like, get the camera out of here.
I promise someone I'd send him a sleep video.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, guys, thank you for tuning in each week. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
If you like what you're hearing, go ahead and click subscribe below. You can leave us a comment if there's any sort of question or topic you want us to discuss, or you can always send us an email at perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com.
All right. Peace out.
We'll see you next week.